Hi, and welcome back to another episode of the History of Fan Anime. I'm your host, William Chow. In today's episode, you're gonna get another one of these fun episodes where someone actually sent me a link to an anime, short, and basically, I'm gonna it talks about classic anime, and decided, okay, I'm gonna basically do my reaction, say some notes and some corrections to the actual clip. So again, before we begin to show the clip, I'd like to again remind everyone to go down below, click like, and click subscribe. It helps the YouTube do its algorithm thing. And if you like, you can also throw a few comments down below. And if you have any other suggestions of videos or articles that you find, by all means, send them on. I do actually have a few already lined up that I want to do. I'm just waiting for the right kind of timing and trying to get the right sort of material sometimes to present it. But I thought, okay, since I'm doing sort of this chapter by chapter look of the history of fan anime. The link is below, but I have a database of all the episodes that I have made for this series of the history of fan anime. And as I'm going through and I'm fleshing out some of the chapters of this big long database, I'm right now working on the stories of about fan clubs. And that's how partially this story came up. So this is a very good time for you to, if you want to expand on more stories about fan clubs. Pull out some classic history of the different fan clubs. By all means, check the database, and you'll get more of that. Okay, so that's listed below. Also listed below. If you want to support me, of course, click the like and that kind of stuff. That helps the YouTube algorithm. But of course, if you want to support me financially, I do have the super thanks button below, as well as links to the PayPal and the Patreon. Now, again, when you join up as a member of the Patreon, you also get access to all the extra episodes that I've made for you guys. That are not posted here on YouTube. Again, there are certain things on YouTube you can't talk about, or they get age restricted or whatever, so that it gets buried in the bureaucracy that is YouTube. So I've got a separate channel for the subscribers, which has all the episodes that I just can't do over here. And again, you can get access to those ones as a subscriber link. So again, I'd like to thank all our subscribers and the people who have donated to this channel. It really helps when you support me with that. Okay, and again, we just finished our anime giveaway. I'm still packing up parcels and stuff like that for that. So again, if you still got one waiting, just be a little more patient. I'll get to it in the next week or so. I am still working on the next batch of 5 episodes. I'll have that another special episode recorded in the next little bit. So in the next batch from I guess volume 11 through 15th, the next batch working in the next little bit. Okay, so I'll get that up to date soon. All right. So today's episode is going to be my reaction to a video. I got this recommendation from one of you viewers out there to go check out this anime short. And then while going through it, I just realized that this is one of those situations where, why I made this channel specifically, because what usually happens is when an anime fan or whatever, which is, a lot younger than I am, looks backwards towards the past, basically uses information that's on the internet, and then basically tries to assess and say what is going on and makes a comment about it. Problem with this is that when you don't live in that era and you didn't go through that era, then you can't exactly comment and say certain things about the things in a proper way. You make some certain assumptions, and you can maybe kind of say things that are not quite correct. And this is part of the reason why I have this particular part of the channel, where I'm telling you stories and I'm telling you things that are from my perspective, but I've lived through that experience, right? It's I always love using the analogy of when you ask a war veteran, for example, what was it like to fight in combat, to do that, then it's probably you get more accurate stories and more probably more interesting stories from that kind of a person than trying to read something out of a novel, for example, or something like that, where it's based upon a story of something, right? Then the people flavor it up a little bit and maybe make it more interesting when it really wasn't as interesting as they wanted, or they changed the outcome when it wasn't exactly the way it was, right? So this is where this kind of thing that I wanted to make sure that when talking about the events and that thing in anime history, that it's sort of accurately portrayed and accurately given the right sort of angle to it. Okay. So, without further delay, let's play the little clips of the video, and then I'll sort of comment on different things as I go along on this particular clip. All right? So, without further delay, let's begin. Okay, so this clip comes from the Cracked channel, and the suggestion was given to me by Jeff Delk of the Super Dimensional Anime Club. So this is kind of a great link, so thank you very much. And so we're going to go through this clip really shortly. It's a YouTube short, so it's nice and really compact, so it's really easy to go through and digest. So we'll sort of do it in parts, all right? So we'll begin with that.
When you think of anime conventions, you might think of this or this. But what about this? The year was 1985, and Americans were hopped up on sticks, domo arigato, Mr. Roboto.
Okay, so I just want to stop the video here and just address this one picture, and I'll address the other photo in a moment when he goes back. So, but I'll address this one. So yeah, again, the year is 1985. And he's referring to these, basically how anime was back in 1985. Now, this picture that he shows in here is obviously this person standing in front of a whole bunch of some Japanese animation books. Notable books that are here, and I had them in my collection. When I first started Japanese animation, a little bit later from here, because this is when I, in 1985 is when I actually graduated grade 12, and I headed down to Vancouver, where I started meeting everybody in the animation community in 86, 87. So one of the first books I did buy are those two that's sitting on that shelf right there. The first one on the left is the art book for an anime called Fandora, and the one right beside it is the book for Yoko Leda. Okay? And again, I had both of these books, and they were one of the very first ones that I had in the thing. And again, this is a really sort of the pinnacle of being an anime fan at this time, is because all this information that we get and all these pictures that we get are from art books. So it's not just it was important to have or see the anime, because again at this time Yoko Leda and Fandora, girl, magical girl type fighting shows, they would have no translation, right? So there's no subtitles, no dubs, right? It's just straight Japanese. Just more or less came out just relatively recently, and this is all we had. So you just watched it, and you kind of figured, okay, we can kind of figure out, we kind of put together the plot. But these art books that we get would be the thing that would kind of put everything together for us. It kind of outlines the story if you could read the Japanese or get somebody to read it for you. It has all the pictures, sketches, frame for frames, and cell works and that kind of stuff, all in there, and that was where we got all the really fine details. If again, just getting some translation, you can get that, and so this is a really notable part of this time. Okay, so the next part I had a really big issue with is when he said Mr. Roboto from Styx, and everyone was grooving to that in 1985, and I'm sitting there going, no. See, this is obviously an indication how this guy is not part of the MTV generation. He didn't live through that era. I remember very distinctly that one of the shows that I was really into was Friday Night Videos on NBC. And that was the premier start of how we got introduced to the music video generation, like MTV generation, right? And I remember one of the very first videos that I remember recording, because I made this VHS mixtape out of all the episodes. So I stayed up, late on Friday night, because that was one of the opportune viewing moments, is to stay up late on Friday to watch Friday night videos, and then sit there with my VCR with the pause control, and sit there and just record all the music videos that was like really cool and neat. And I remember one of them was Domo Arigato, Mr. Roboto, yeah, sticks. And that was back in 1983, not 1985. 1985, you should have probably used something like Big in Japan by Alphaville. Anyway, just sort of a thing where obviously, this is how you can tell something was made by someone who read up on it or, didn't live it and kind of, tried to piece the information together, as opposed to someone who actually lived through that and actually, had the experience of doing things like that and memories to tie it with. That gives you an indication of where this video kind of goes from.
The place, New York City, in a Polish club basement. 100 nerds pack into a room to watch anime on a tiny TV at one of the earliest American anime conventions put together by the Cartoon Fantasy Organization.
Alright, so let's go over some of the points that he's made in this part here. He comments the place, New York City, in a Polish club basement. So, really, in the early days when we had, these anime meetings, even when we started the Vancouver Japanese Animation Society, the general public to kind of convene and then, basically have a place that we can show the anime and show off some, things that and merchandise and that kind of stuff. It was art books and magazines and that kind of stuff. And that's sort of what we see here, where they've, it's obviously seems to be like a party room or something, and maybe it's in the bottom of like a restaurant type of thing. And they use this extra room and they rent it so that they can have their meetings and that kind of stuff in this room. So it's a common meeting place rather than someone's apartment or that kind of thing. In other situations, like a classroom in school. Okay, or a lecture hall theater, because later on, and on the weekends there's no classes, so we rented one of these rooms in a large lecture hall theater because it has nice seats and everything like that, and it could house probably several hundred people. Okay, his next frame he talks about everyone who is in attendance looks like they should be there. Well, yeah, because in order to be at this meeting, you have to be a member of the CFO. Like, you have to pay your club dues. So these people are there because they actually paid to be there. And of course, you can say, well, these guys look geeky or whatever and whatever. And it's true, in the early parts of, anime fandom, most of the people who followed anime were male. Just because a lot of the animes and that kind of stuff that a lot of people followed were like, male orientated, following the 3Gs, girls, guns, and gore. But that's not to say that we did have some female members, and even in our group, we had some female members that did occasionally show up from time to time and come to the meetings. That was just something that was available in our area. Okay, his next frame he writes, all movies are straight from Japan with no subtitles. So, again, when this video clip they made for the CFO was made, they were referring to the age of 1985. Later on, when I got into the anime business, and that was back in '87, a little bit more was available through various means and that kind of stuff. And then, of course, when we started getting into 88 and 89, that's when we began fan subbing our own stuff. So not only would we have access to the ability to get anime from Japan, we were able to apply our own subtitles and our own translation to those things, and so that we were literally breaking ground on this new technology of basically being able to provide English to the Japanese that that they were missing in the earlier ages. For example, when this was made in '85. Okay, so the next point he also made here is at one of the earliest American anime conventions. The reason I really fell into this one and immediately kind of questioned it right away is because when I was doing research for the CFO chapter for Denver, and was doing the searches and that kind of stuff, I came across this picture. This is a picture from the CFO New York chapter. And this is a picture of one of their meetings. So I immediately knew that, okay, this is not a convention, okay, because conventions are something that is special. You kind of do it once, at best even twice a year, and that's it. You try to get people that are outside the genre to kind of come and that kind of stuff, and meet in a sort of a larger kind of thing or whatever, right? This is a planned meeting that happens at a particular time every month. So usually it's like the third Saturday or Sunday, usually for most people, because that usually is away from most major holidays that begin at the beginning of the month, or things like Christmas, for example, which is at the end of the month. You can get a meeting in every month, okay? And basically, these people that are in this room are people that are members. They're subscribers. They're basically people who pay their membership dues, and they show up here, right? So this isn't a pay $100 for a one-time once a year type of thing. This is you pay, I think it was probably like 25 bucks or whatever, and that paid for all 12 meetings every month. Okay, and in this case, it probably was like the third Saturday out of the month. The Vancouver Japanese Animation Club in Vancouver here. We did our meetings every third Sunday of the month. And so this was a reoccurring event. We were planning something on that particular third Sunday. You can go and look up for some flyers and that kind of stuff that we would hand out to find out what was available, what movies we were going to play. We had a BBS set up so that you could go and check out what the titles were going to be, and we even had an anime store which we had hung up posters and that kind of stuff where you could go and say, oh yeah, that I like that show. I'm gonna go show up and watch that. And for those people who weren't members, we would still let them in. We may charge them like $3 or $5 or whatever it was, depending on the type of meeting. So that they can come in for that meeting. No membership required, but you would have to keep paying that reoccurring fee every month. That's good for the casual fans, right? But we've always made it economical to buy a membership, so that way you can come to every meeting with your membership card. So indeed, I'd have to say he overhyped this by calling it a convention.
Which means Patricia has to stand next to the TV the whole time and tell everybody what's happening.
Okay, so the other little point I sort of am making is that Patricia Malone was the chapter head for the CFO in New York, and I think I might have wrote her a letter because I said when I got the CFO mailing list, it had all the chapters and who all the contact people were, and I probably did send them a letter and that kind of stuff, but I probably didn't get that much response or anything from them, but I know I did do lots of mailing and that kind of stuff to people in New York. So I guess I did eventually have contact with their club. But the big point here is that he's saying that she's standing in front of the TV, doing commentary and that kind of stuff for the video, so that people understood. And I remember, even with our club, even in the early time, I never did that, and we never had people that did that. What we did is we had what these closer to like crib sheets or Cole's notes, as you were, and they would basically be pieces of paper which contains a summary and brief synopsis of what the show is going to be, especially if it's going to be straight in Japanese, right? Just enough to explain who the characters are, what's going, what the general plot is, and maybe some important dialogue here and there, and that kind of thing. We'd take that, we'd photocopy it, and then we'd hand it out before the show so that people can read it out and kind of figure out what they have it in hand, so as they watch the video they got this paper with them so that they can follow. Otherwise, we basically stuck with anything that's commercially released at that particular time, or of course later on when we were able to subtitle our own stuff. We had no problems doing anything with translation.
The guy in the tiny tie invents the anime music video at one of these meetings.
Okay, so this is a point that he makes here is that the guy in the tiny tie invents the anime music video. So the person who invented the anime music video, or is credited with the inventing of the music video, is James Capozasta. Okay, and he apparently made a "All You Need Is Love" from the Beatles, done to all these killing scenes and shooting scenes in Space Cruiser Yamato. So he designed it as a kind of a joke video, right? So so you just can imagine all you need is love, and all you see is like all these gamelons getting killed and whatever, like and red shirts, if you will, getting killed off, right? So this is kind of all right, sure, this is kind of getting kind of hokey, but that's what he's credited for. And what I think the proper wording was probably he showed off this music video at these meetings, and of course that's kicked off this entire AMV thing. Even I started doing AMVs for the purpose of filling out tapes and getting people interested in different types of anime done to music. Obviously, I wasn't aware that he made this video, and he didn't really make this video available to a lot of people. Because again, you have to make copies of it, you have to distribute it, and again, without that, a lot of things happen. Like for example, the original version of the video just kind of disappeared, and obviously, no one actually has a good quality copy of those original videos. Again, I made almost 3 volumes of 6 hours, 3 volumes, 2 hours each of AMVs. Using the VHS method, right? Using a linear editing, and I've got a video, which goes over that, as well as I've now put all those videos that I've made on the Patreon. So again, if you've subscribed to that, you can get access to all those, because again, all the problems I'm having with YouTube and blocking and that kind of stuff, I can't put them here. So obviously, I can do that on the Patreon, right? So check that out.
All the animes are on Japanese VHS tapes, which means they're really hard to get their hands on in America.
One big issue that he has is with the picture here. Here he's showing a list, basically a pan of someone's VHS collection of English released, i.e. released in North America, titles in VHS. Slight problem. VHS versions of English animes here in North America didn't start until 1991-92 with things like Dangai Extra One and that kind of stuff, right? These titles obviously wouldn't have looked like this in 1985. They would have looked more like this, where these would be tapes that would be like recorded in Japan. On someone's VCR, and then they would be basically labeled in Japanese, obviously, and then they would be put into a box. They'd be shipped manually over here to North America, and then with those copies, then we were able to then show them at our meetings and that kind of stuff. Or for example, these would probably end up in some mom and pop shop in a Japanese store, and then you'd rent them, and then you could make copies of them from there. Okay, but again, the looks of the tape would be more like either handwritten or machine written, like labels, put onto those things. Okay.
So no one is willing to sell them, only trades and cool anime drug deals.
Okay, so he touches on 2 things here. He's basically saying that no one is willing to sell these tapes, but they're only willing to trade them. And so he's kind of right on this, and in the way that a lot of people are making copies of these videos because that's the only way you can show them. Like, if I say, hey, here's this really cool anime, or in the case of the AMV, hey, I made this cool AMV, for you to show me that video, or saying, hey, go check this out, you would have to actually physically make a copy of that tape, give it to the person, and say, hey, go home, take this to your VCR, put it in, and then you can watch my AMV, and there we go, right? The amount of time and number of effort to actually make extra copies, so that for example, if there was like 100 people in your room, you're not going to make like 10-20 copies of this particular video to give to people in order to or sell to people, right? People would just much rather say, hey, I'll trade you a copy of this show if you've got a copy of something else, and then they'd make copies of each other, and then they trade it at the next time they meet up at the meeting or something like that. That was one way that things were done. A lot of trading and that kind of stuff was usually done in this sort of situation, because it was just too hard. A lot of people didn't have two VCRs to do that kind of stuff, so it was just really difficult in that case. The other part was that we didn't want to be stepping on other quote over the line with this copying kind of stuff, right? Because that's obviously piracy, right? Because you're basically making a copy of something and you're trying to sell it, right? So it was really kind of explicitly mentioned in the CFO thing, charter, that they would not sell video cassettes. You could trade them, you can pass them around, you can borrow them, kind of thing, but they weren't going to sell anything. That was sort of the key that sort of people wanted to stay on the right side for. The second problem with this particular video is the actual, cassettes that people are actually holding. The one on the left and the one on the right are both volumes of Tenchi Muyo, or Tenchi Universe, which is the TV series for Tenchi Muyo, okay? And they're basically exchanging different volumes of the Tenchi Universe tapes. Well, Tenchi Universe came out on VHS in 1996, not 85. So you're basically using a picture which is 9 years after this actual thing is supposed to have happened. Now I get it, sure. The anime, club, the CFO, obviously were continued to exist even under different names and different chapter head changes and different administration changes and things like that would have occurred. But again, to put this picture here is a little dated, because now we're talking about a total different era of how anime is, because now we've got stuff that has translation. Now we have stuff that isn't Japanese anymore. These are now English commercial released VHS tapes that now they're trading with each other. Okay, and the last thing he says is kind of cringe, because he basically makes an out of reference kind of joke or plug without actually really putting it in perspective, because if most people when they view this, it just seems rather out of place, and they think and they actually think drugs are actually involved, right? And of course anime fans, they always get the brunt of all the really bad stuff anyway, so that's that's par for the course. But to put things proper, the idea is that this anime is really new, it's cool. No one's really seen this stuff before, and so one of the ways to get people quote hooked on anime, because it was really addictive at the time. Okay, a lot of people compared it to drugs, for example, right? A lot of people, especially when they when they come into my store, when what kind of stuff they say that hey, you're like a kid in a candy store. Here's all this sweet goodness that's all in the store, and it's all available to you. You just you can you have access to it, right? Or the same way how a lot of people like to kind of put the analogy to cocaine or crack cocaine, right? Highly addictive. And so it's like it's like what the drug dealers do to to get new clients, is that they say, here you go, we'll give you some free blow type of thing if so you can try it out, and as soon as you try it out, you immediately get hooked on it, and of course then you become the customer, right? So the idea is the same kind of concept in anime. You just got to show them this really cool scene out of an anime, or kind of like here's a VHS tape of something, or here you come to one of our meetings and you can show them some anime, and then also they're going like, wow, this is really cool, this is the best thing I've ever seen. I've never seen this on American TV, because remember 95, 85, we're still talking about Scooby Doo and Justice League in America, Spider-Man, Amazing Friends, Thunderheart the Barbarian, things like this, right? These are what we're seeing on Saturday morning cartoons here, and all of a sudden, now you're showing them like Macross and just really epically drawn movies in animated form, right? So this literally is like crack cocaine. It's just you're getting hooked on this stuff. And so that's what's his reference to the cool anime drug deals. This is like, we're literally, trading and handing over, highly addictive content, shall we say? All right. Okay, I just wanted to finish off the video with basically showing the website, which this person obviously got all his information from. And so here is, obviously someone's blog post where he reaccounted, living the life, of an anime fan back in the 1980s. Okay, and this is really nice because this is how a person who's lived through it, who's gone through the process, and is telling the story, just like what my website and this channel is doing, is trying to build the picture, trying to give you the environment. And the and all the surrounding things involved with it to you, so you got a better idea of what it is and an accurate idea of what it is. And so here's what happens: is when you get someone who's a lot younger, maybe not quite into the scene, as it were, who comes along, reads this information, and decides to cherry pick and pull things out, and basically put things out of reference, and basically not put the information together properly, you get a whole bunch of things that just don't quite match up, and obviously doesn't resonate properly, and maybe brings on the wrong message. And again, this is where channels like myself and whatnot are really important, because they basically tell you the story, tell you the environment, and tell you the things from experience, and from my point of view as I saw it and as I experienced it, as opposed to just again having a person try to read information off the internet, trying to Google stuff, and assume that, quote, everything's on the internet must be true. Yeah, right. Anyway, obviously you get this sort of thing happening, and obviously it clouds what really happens. And again, this is one of the primary examples why I decided to set up this channel and to do what I'm doing here. So thank you for watching this entire video in its entirety, because it really means a lot to me that this information is important to you. All right, so I hope you found that kind of interesting. And again, if you have any suggestions of your own, and you just run across some interesting anime clips or that kind of stuff that you would like to draw my attention to, by all means, put it in the comments below or email me, whatever. I'd love to hear from you, and maybe it's that it'll spark an episode just like this. Okay, so until next time, I will see you again.